Hey, hello. Welcome to another 757 Spy Flight over on YouTube. Thank you for coming in today. Hello, I'm Dave. I do the Spy Flights over on Twitch. It's early in the morning, and one of the things that I like to do, especially now that we have these more complex airplanes, is to do an early morning training flight. Training, yeah, essentially, try and figure out better ways to fly these, a little more correct way to fly these. And so one of the things I've been doing most mornings now is fire up the old flight simulator and do a little flight. And so that's what I've got for you today. This is just a real simple flight. We are at Detroit Metro, and we're going to Chicago O'Hare. Real world, Detroit's taking off on 22 right. There is a short flight. Chicago is landing on the 10s, the 9s and 10s. So we'll come in on 10 center. Our cruise flight level today, flight level 340. Total time, gate to gate, this is about an hour and 55 minutes, and it's about 296 miles of flying time. So what am I going to be using for this flight? Aside from Microsoft Flight Simulator and the Fenix A320, I'm using Navigraph charts and data. Didn't use SkyVector so much on this one, but SkyVector is a good tool. I do use METAR TAF, and I've looked at FlightAware to see what gates to go to. So over at Detroit Metro, the United flight that's going to be going to Chicago later today is an A319, and it's going to take off from Delta 2. So there you go. A United flight taking off from the Delta Concourse. There's something twisted about that, and welcome to my world. So we've got this all set up and ready to go. I used SimToolkit Pro and SimBrief to generate a flight plan. And right now, it's time for us to go and hop into the airplane. Jetway is not in place. Doors are closed, so we got to do a little bit of magic here. And we'll just go over to the electronic flight bag. 20% battery remaining. What does that mean? Well, I've had this thing up running for a while this morning while I made breakfast and coffee so that I could show you the iPad here is now 17%. Let's go over here, and what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the Fenix Sim iPad. Notice how the battery is red. Now let's go over to the airplane, and we're going to turn power on the airplane. Battery 1, battery 2, and we also have external power. We're going to pop that in. Let's see, the other thing we do is it's the 8th, that's an even day, so we're going to use navigation and logo light system number 2, and that's it. Now let's go back over and look at this. If you look carefully, you can see the little iPad charging icon is there. This is one of the cool little things that I discovered about the Fenix Simulations A320. Excuse me, allergies. The attention to detail has been so deep in this airplane that the iPad for your electronic flight bag will discharge unless you've got it plugged in and power is turned on the airplane. I kind of think that was, big airplane geek moment for me when I saw that. This is really pretty cool. How about that? So let's go and get our flight plan. We generated it with SimToolkit Pro and SimBrief, so we come on over here, and this is going to give us our flight plan. And so we got to download it, and this goes out to SimBrief, and that's something I really like about this thing. This will go and get your flight plan. This is an amazing electronic flight bag. Super duper impressed with this. And here we go, flight level 340. Fuel for the flight today is going to be 5.9 tons. Cost index 27. Everything we need here is in this flight plan. Next thing for us to do is we can go over to the Fenix, and now for a little bit of realism here, we'll go and start the app, and we'll go to the ground services. First, let's import the flight plan into the Fenix app. And it should say, about 30 minutes to departure? Might need to re-import it. Re-import now. It's kind of wavering a little bit here. Oh, there we go. And we have 26 minutes to departure. So let's go to ground services. And what we can do here is we have the GPU and the chocks in place, but we need a jetway. So if we go over here, you can toggle the jetway, and that's going to get it over there. Watch the door, the L1, the front door. As soon as the jetway's in place, it should open up the L1 for us. Oh, look at that. Doors open. So now we've got a jetway in place, and we can sort of walk into the airplane. So you got to do that first. And our airplane is coming to life. So let's go over to do menu. And that looks good. Let's go back to the menu here and go to the ATSU system. and the Air Operations Center and go to the flight initialization and request our data. This gets it into the right side of this. And by right side, I mean the AOC Air Operations System, the ATSU system, and there's our flight plan. So that looks really good. And so there's our data request. And we can also go over here to FMGC, and we see that our nav data is currently up to date. We're going to cancel out of all of the advisories here in the scratch pad. And then we can kind of come up here and we can do nav 1. And let's, while we're waiting to see the on battery light, we'll also do the fire test here on the APU. There's fire test on the APU. Now let's go and do IR number 2. And while we wait for the on battery, let's do fire test over here on engine 2. There we go. And then we'll go over here and do IR number 3, the one in the middle. Wait for the on battery light, and we do the fire test there. That's just a way to do the fire test and make sure that all of these are connected to the battery. They are. We're going to turn on cruise supply of oxygen, and I usually turn up the cargo heat to about mid-range here in the aft section. Okay, so that's what we got. The other thing that we could do is we could go to the APU and hit the master switch. And this is going to go and start opening the flap, and we can get the APU going, and that's going to get some ventilation in the airplane. It's a little bit later in the day, summertime, probably want to get a little bit of coolness in the airplane. Now let's go over to the init page over here, and let's do our initialization request. And this is going to go and get the flight plan over into the actual McDo here. And it sometimes takes a second. While that's going up, let's look over here and see, the flap is open, so we can come back here and start up the APU. Different policies about when airlines will turn on their APU. I'm getting it on right now just so that we can go and get some cool temperatures here because it's hot. We're flying as United Airlines, flight 441 today, and that goes in there. Our cost index, that's according to the flight plan. We can come over here, and this is another thing that I'm so amazed at. We can do the whole flight basically within the cockpit. I don't have to have anything outside of the cockpit today, which is awesome. And so flight level 340 and cost index is 27. So 27 for the cost index, flight level 340, and that just takes care of all the blanks here. We can go over to the IRS init page and align on the reference and confirm. And then we can come over here and we can do a wind download too. This is great too. This goes out and it's going to get our cruise winds. So the McDo is going to do a better job of getting everything taken care of doing the math based on what the winds are going to be like, which is just amazing. Okay, back over here to init. The current time, it is now 13:12. We are taking off at 13:35. We need to get the passengers walking down the jetway. So come on over here to Fenix and go to Mass and Balance. And we have got 125 brave souls flying with us today. Let's load the aircraft. It's going to take 21 minutes for the real download, for the real load to happen. So we're going to go and get that started right now. They're already starting to load cargo. They're going to fuel the airplane, and I'm just going to go ahead and resend our load sheet over, just because I think I'm running a little bit late on this. I think we're going to catch up just fine, but we can come over here, and this is actually pretty cool. We can go to the weather page and do a weather request, and we can go ahead and do KDTW and put that in up here and request the METAR and send that. Again, we don't have to go outside of the airplane to get the information that we need to do our thing. And let's go to receive messages, and there's weather data and load sheet. So they actually sent me a load sheet on time. I was just being impatient. So there we go. Speaking of charts, so come on over here. We need to go to Navigraph, which is inside here, which is really cool. This, it's a little bit slow to respond, but I think that that's because that's the way things are in airplanes. Things are a little bit slower as far as getting charts and stuff. We are at Detroit Metro here, so let's get airport information. So we got that. We are also going to do our departure, and our departure is on the next page. And there is our departure. We are doing the Kalen 2 departure. So over here, let's get ourselves the Kalen 2 departure. So departure and Kalen 2. And all I'm doing is starring these right now. Come on back over here. Now, one of the things that I've found is if you're starring things like ground charts, so the airport chart, you can only star one airport chart at a time. I've found. I'm not able to go and get the Chicago chart yet, but so I can't get the Chicago chart until after I get rid of the Detroit chart. We're going to do the Windy 2 to 10 center. So we can go over and get the arrival and the runway. So KORD, let's find Windy 2 arrival, because everybody knows it's windy. Yeah, I haven't had enough coffee yet. The jokes are going to be incredibly lame. And 10 center, 22, 22, 27, 22, 27, 27, 27, 27. Lots of runways at Chicago. 28, 28. Was it at the top? Did I pass it by? I probably did. Did I go past it? 10 center. It was right at the top. Okay. ILS 4. That's permanent runways. Oh, this is text. I don't think this is it. Is this it? This is just the text information. Yeah, that's for these. So 4 right, 22. 22, 22, 22. Did I miss this somehow? 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 27, 28, 28, 28. ILS 28, 4, 9. 9. This is ridiculous, isn't it? 9 right, 10 left, 10 center. Wow. ILS 10 center, all the way down there. Okay, so we got that, and let's just go ahead and click after all of that. Boy, they got a lot here in this one. Okay, that looks like our approach, so that's good to go there too. Passengers are slowly making their way down the jetway. Let's just go ahead and do a quick check and make sure that the passengers are doing passenger things. Yes, they are. So that's good too. Okay, airplane's now doing really good here. Let's go and we can do the weather data. And this is going to give us our altimeter setting, 3006. I'm sorry, this is a spy flight. This should be 3007. But I can only whine so much. So 3006. Fine, be that way. So be sure you come over here, switch from hectopascals to inches of mercury, and 3006. Okay, and we're going to be good pilots, and I'm going to set the back up too. Sometimes I can't reach it there. You have to kind of come down to the side to be able to turn it. So 3006, that goes down there. All right, so we got that. We know from the flight plan that we're going to go to flight level 340, but what we should do is we should go and take a look. One of the things that you're going to get on VATSIM is oftentimes they're going to just give you in your clearance, climb via the SID. That's all they're going to say. What they want you to do, and this is what you're supposed to do, is go over here and look at the departure SID and click this. And so does this give us a top altitude? It does, 17,000 feet. That's our cleared altitude. So unless otherwise stated, that's how you figure that out. Maybe they've been doing this all along and I've just been ignoring it, but that's what they want you to do. Okay, so GPS primary is set. Let's go and start doing the F plan, KDTW. Departure. Remind me of what my departure runway is. And we got to come over here and click pilot brief. And our departure runway is going to be 22 right and Kalen 2. So 22 right, 22 right, and we're going to look for Kalen 2. There's Kalen 2. And SMUUV. Is it smooth? It sure is. That is going to be our smooth move. Yes, I haven't had enough coffee, sorry. Coming into Chicago O'Hare, we know we're going to do the windy arrival to 10 center. So find me an ILS of 10 center. Okay, and now let's see if we can find windy. And of course, that's going to be at the bottom. Now, you might notice I'm clicking and it takes a while. That's the way this McDo is supposed to behave. Okay, and are we coming in via Emma, Font, or Obster? Windy to smooth. I don't see anything else. Do we have a smooth by any chance? I don't see any. Up. There it is. I clicked it and I wasn't patient. So smooth. There we go. Now, do we have an approach via? I'm sure we do. Gibbons. I'm going to go no via. We don't need to go all the way out to Gibbons. It's just us. If we were on VATSIM, I'd probably take it, but there you go. Okay, so here is our flight plan. We can kind of go down here. You know what? I think I got my APU up and running, and we don't have our APU bleed turned on, so we're not getting the benefit of the ventilation and the air conditioning that I was yammering about earlier. You can get sidetracked pretty easy. There's ice, there's smooth. There's going to be a vectors here on the arrival. There's Ernie. So yeah, when you hit a button, it's going to take a second to respond. And then there is our vectors to the ILS. I think we got a decent flight here. All this looks good. So let's go back to flight plan, and I think that's going to work. Let's return over here, and we can do our preliminary load sheet. So we come to init, and we come on over here, and our zero fuel weight is 56.0. So 56, actually it'd probably be 56.1 is what we would get if we round that up. So let's make do the little slash there and go to the next page, and our zero fuel weight is 30.8. I usually find that usually changes after the final load, so that goes in there. Okay, looking good. Let's look at the gas gauge. We are at 6.1. The ECAM says we are not refueling right now. So if we're not refueling or anything like that, so 6.1, that's the fuel. And then if we wanted to be extra special cautious good pilots, we'd look over here and we would look at our block fuel. It says 6.2. I got the APU running, so it's probably close enough. So I'm going to go 6.1, although my suspicion is real world, close enough is a deal breaker. Okay, so that looks good. No numbers are going to pop up there, so let's accept that. Return. And we do have one more company message. This is the original one. I'm going to accept the original just because I was not being patient. All right, so all of this is looking good here. And the airplane is doing all right, I guess. Passengers are coming down the jetway. One of the reasons that I wanted to do a departure out of Detroit, this is a freeware airport. And I have got to tell you, for freeware airports, this is really, really nice. I got it at flightsim.to. So if you go to flightsim.to and you just do KDTW, it will take you to this amazing. They even modeled some of the terminals in here. So they've just done a great job on this airplane. And I'm amazed at it's a freeware. It's a freeware airport, and it just blows me away. Let's see here. Everything's looking good down here. Nothing really to do. We'll just squawk 2000. If we were on VATSIM, I would go to 122.8 and be a good pilot and talk over there. You know, when we're over on the Spy Flight on Twitch, a lot of people are talking about how they'd love to be on VATSIM, but it's just so intimidating to talk on the radio. And you know what? It absolutely is. If you've watched a couple of the videos I've done here on YouTube, we've talked about that. And the thing is it absolutely, it's not your imagination. It is a little bit intimidating. So one of the things that I do suggest is doing an early morning flight like I'm doing right now. But what you can do is you can go and you can you can go and just do a flight on VATSIM when there's no AT and start announcing your intentions. And that's CTAF, Unicom, some of us call it. But that's when you get on 122.8 and you turn on the microphone and you say, hey, Detroit traffic, this is a United A320, and we're at gate Delta 2, and we're going to taxi on over to runway 22 left. And that's it. That's all you got to do. And if you start doing those kinds of flights, that's going to kind of help you get beyond being so nervous. Let's see. Our lights are all good here. I was reading one SOP that says you want to turn on the dome lights to dim no matter what, even in the daytime. I forget which one that was. And everything's looking good here. Everything's looking good here. How's our passengers doing? 79 of 125 passengers. There are two options that you can use with loading the aircraft. There's the faster option and the instant option. I invariably go with the real world option and then end up regretting it because I have to wait probably an extra 5 to 10 minutes if I just use the fast option and stop being so dedicated to being real. Look over here. You see the iPad is now at 30%. Our iPad is charging up. I think that's really, really awesome. Current time, it is 13:26. We are going to be pushing back in 9 minutes. So come on, passengers. Get ready to come on down. So 86, we're probably going to get a late departure because, you know, somebody had to be real. So there you go. They've already loaded up the cargo, though. I think this is probably about all we could do. We could come over here while we're waiting. Hey, you guys want to hurry it up back there? I mean, we got a schedule to keep. There's hot Chicago pizza waiting for us here. Nice jetway. I really like the way they've set up the jetways on a lot of these airplanes in Microsoft Flight Simulator. They match your airplane really well. Let's see, did we bring in any coffee? Hey, look at that. There's the coffee. It's already made. They've also got an espresso machine too. So you can do espresso, and I think this is what you would use to froth your milk. So you could even froth your milk too. They've already got these. Tie wrap down here. So I guess we can't steal a beer or something out of there. Okay. But they did a really nice job, I thought, of modeling some things in the airplane to give, you know, those of us that don't get to spend the time on airplanes that we would like to spend on airplanes, you know, time to go and, look around. And speaking of looking around, what do we got? 96, so about 30 passengers to go. One of the things you could do is come over here and go and get the drone camera or the showcase camera. And we're going to be moving at about 10. So let's kind of go down here. And let's go down here. And we can come over here. And if you take the time to go walking around the airplane and get up kind of close here, you know how when the pilots are doing their walk around, they're supposed to check things like the brakes? If you look, you can see that you can check the hydraulic lines, and I think you can even see some of the brake stuff. The brake indicators are modeled there. We look up in here. I mean, really, the lines are the hydraulic lines are modeled really nicely. You can see over here the landing light. Okay, so it's all tucked up in here. This is the thing that kind of flops down. So you've got that over there. We can come over here and you can see the nose gear. I think you can even read the instructions. To operate the handle, you can even read the instructions over here on this. I think that's pretty awesome. Got all of the lights and stuff. The runway turnoff lights are set. So again, they let's see, what is this? Is this might be the pilot call button up here? I don't think it's modeled, but that might be where you plug in your ground headset to talk to the pilots. I think that might be what that red light is. I'm sure if we were to go and get ourselves a operating manual, we could see that. If you come over here, I think we can come up here and get really close. You'll see the not one but two red lights in here. So we've got the strobe over here, and you've got two red lights, system A and system B. So they've modeled that. They did a really good job of modeling the fence. So, you know, one of the things you can do is I believe you could probably do a complete walk around on this airplane, just like the pilots would do. And I think that would be fun. Now, it's also pretty well known that I've got an unusual idea of fun, but there you go. We are 117, so we are within 10 passengers of boarding. So this is when I usually go, and on my flows, it's external power off after making sure the APU is up and running, and fuel pumps are going to go on, because I'm notoriously bad about forgetting the fuel pumps. Okay, so we've got that there. We can also go, and if you go online into the Google and do A320 space checklist space PDF, chances are you'll be able to get yourself a real world checklist. And with the complexity of these airplanes, I will go and grab one of those, print it off, I'll put it in a little plastic sleeve and use it just like the pilots are going to use this. So let's do the before start checklist. Cockpit prep is pretty much done. Gear pins and covers are aboard. Passenger signs are not on. We'll do that when the doors close. So technically, we should probably stop with the checklist now. Come on, passengers. We are supposed to be leaving in 4 minutes. And we got 2 more passengers to get in their seats. Up, 1 more passenger. They are boarded. So we should be getting a notification here any second that says passengers are boarding, dismissed. And what that will do is go over to the ground, and I think now they're going to close the door and retract the jetway. So seatbelts, we're going to go ahead and pop those on. Seatbelts are on, so passenger signs are on. ADIRS is set to nav. Fuel quantity is verified. 6.1 is what we need for the flight. Takeoff data is not set. We haven't done that. So come on over here. This is going to go by fast. Departure performance. We know that we're going to be on 22 left. So 22 left is our departure. I hope I've remembered that correctly. It's dry. We're going to sync the final load sheet. I'm going to leave the packs on because it's summertime. Sync the live weather. And there's weather. Let's calculate. It's calculation time. And we're doing flaps 2, down 0. So over to performance, flaps 2 / DN 0.0. And click. We are going to be flexing today to 67 degrees. 67 degrees. That's good too. We are 133, 133, 136. 133 is V1. 133 is rotate. And 136 is V2. That looks good too. We're waiting for our final load sheet. That's going to take a few minutes. So we can go ahead and do the rest of the before start checks. Windows and doors are now closed. Beacon is going to go on. There is our beacon going on. Thrust levers are at idle. Rudder parking brake is on. Come on over here. We're done with this. Let's go back to the Fenix app. And we're going to go to ground services. I'm going to connect the tug. Oh, we're going to get rid of the GPU. Ground power, grab the tug. And usually when you grab the tug, if your brakes are on, that is going to pull your chocks. And here comes the tug. And look at that. It is 34. This is an on-time departure. I wish I could take credit for it. Parking brake goes off. Parking brake is off. And let's go ahead and start a straight back push. There we go. How about that? Wow. That's pretty impressive. We made it on time. All right, so let's see. We can come on over here, and before start check is good. So let's go ahead and do the starter to ignition start. Look over here, verify. Do we have pneumatic pressure? We do. So let's start engine number 2. The starter switches and all of that works really, really well with the Thrustmaster Airbus controls. I have to tell you, that's one of the cool things that I really like about this, and why I've really just completely enjoyed getting the Thrustmaster stuff. And we're coming back beyond the red line here, the crew line, I mean. And that looks pretty good. So let's do stop. Once you hit stop, the airplane does not stop on a dime. It takes a second. Parking brakes going on. Parking brakes are on. Yep, parking brakes are on. Release the tug. And then we're going to go over here and go to Navigraph. And I'm going to come up here to the Detroit chart. So outside of here, we are going to make a... Let's do a right turn. We're going to go down Kila to Victor and go over here to 22 right. How's that sound? And we got a good start on engine number 2. How about starting 1? Engine 1 starts. Okay, so if you weren't paying attention and, you know, you didn't see where it says avail, you know, signifying that the end of the start sequence. If you come over here and notice, you see how my N2 is in a gray box? The starter's sequence is on there. When that gray box goes away, even if you miss the avail sign, you know that the start is concluded. Our second load sheet has arrived, and let's go over here to init page B. The init page has changed a bit. Now it's down here. We are at 56.0. 56.0. So our zero fuel weight changed. 56.0, and our zero fuel weight center of gravity is 30.4. That changed too. 30.4. So what that means is probably a passenger or two didn't show up. Let's go and look over here. Since it changed a very little, I don't think that's going to change our V speeds that much for takeoff, but we can go ahead and just make sure that that's okay. And we got 2 good starts on our engines. That looks good. And I did not do no smoking. Let's also go ahead and turn on the emergency exit lights. We're done with the APU bleed, and we are done with the master switch here. Control checks. Control checks are not just for real-world pilots. If you are a simulator pilot, sometimes your USB will disconnect. Got to get the starter back to normal. Then we can do this. If your USB disconnects, you don't have your side stick working. If a USB has a problem, so that can be a problem. That's why you do your control checks just like the real-world pilots. Trim is going to be down 0.0. We're at 0.0. I think that that's good. Let's see, we should go, and even though we're not on VATSIM, we're going to squawk mode Charlie, because that's what we do on VATSIM, and I think we're ready to go. After start checklist, anti-ice is not needed. It's summertime. ECAM status is checked and cleared, and everything looks groovy there. Pitch trim has been set. Rudder trim, we're going to hit the 0 button. This is also when I go and I hit my ground spoilers for takeoff. Okay, and I think we can go. So, looks like everything's clear. Nose light's going to go on. Parking brake is off. I'm going to look over here, and let's go ahead and loop-de-loop this way so I can see a little bit more outside the window. Add a little bit of power, get us rolling forward. After we're rolling forward, and once this airplane gets going, if you just go ahead and go back to thrust idle, that really is about all you need to do. Is that our turn? No, we got to go straight south here a bit. That's not our turn. And the steering is not instantaneous on this thing. So you saw I turned a little bit too much and then released it thinking we would go straight. I tell you, there's a little lag here in this. So it's an A320, but it's, you know what? It's still a big jet. Okay, so we're going to continue on down here. We're on taxiway Kila. We're looking for Victor. And right turn on Victor. Flaps are going to be 2 for takeoff. Always fun to watch the flaps go out. There we go. There's flaps. We need to do auto brakes to max, because Max is always flying with us. Let's do the takeoff config button and look down here, and our takeoff config test is over, and it looks like we got an A. Looking over here, we got Bravo, and so second available right is going to be our next turn. And now we just concentrate on our taxi and being good pilots here. Hopefully it's all done. You know, one of the cool things about the Fenix and the PMDG is there is always something new to learn about these things. There's always some new way to learn this, you know, as more real world pilots operating handbooks and manuals come out, there's new stuff to read and say, this is the way the real pilots do it. We should do it the way the real pilots do it. So that's part of the attraction there. Okay, this is going to be Victor. We're going to cross a runway. So if we were on VATSIM right now, we might say something along the lines of Detroit traffic. United A320 is at Victor, crossing runway 22 left. Detroit. I turned a little soon, but those are some of the intentions that you would be announcing. You might wonder why it is that we're not using 22 left here. The current ATIS for the real world Detroit, 22 left is closed right now. So that's why we're going to 22 right. One of the things I try to do is take a look at what the real world is doing and mirror the real world. So if Detroit is taking off on over here on 22 right, we're going to take off on 22 right as well. Okay, so as we come over here, we got a little bit of a taxi out going by these hangars over here. Now, if I'd planned ahead and I didn't do a good job of this, we could have gone and figured out an intersection departure and taken off on Alpha 5, but I didn't figure that out. That's one of the things I really like about the Lido style of charts. If there's intersection departures, the actual remaining runway numbers are actually printed right there. I'm sure that they're printed in other places too, in the Jepson. I just haven't found it yet. Terrible, I know. See, there's always more things to learn. So Victor, Alpha, Alpha 7, and off we go. One of the neat resources that I do like to use when I'm doing the flight planning for a flight in the U.S. airspace, there is a FAA Digital ATIS website. So you can go and get the real world digital ATIS, which for most of the bigger airports, now the small regionals, no, it's not going to be there. But the bigger airports, you're going to find that, and I think that that's nice. If you are flying outside the U.S., so let's say we were doing Copenhagen to Frankfurt, we could go to Flight Radar 24, or we could go to FlightAware, and we could just take a look at the little map and see which runways are in use in the real world. So it takes a little more detective work, but you can make that work. You can do that. And I think that that's another good way, especially when you're flight planning yourself, to be able to fit in with real world traffic. If we had decided to get onto VATSIM today, we could have used the real world and planned our flight with real world, and chances are that's what we would be doing until ATC pops online. And generally, ATC in VATSIM is going to do what the real world is doing. All right, just a nice little, this has been a thrust idle taxi. Now we're cruising along at about 17 knots right now. So let's do a little bit of a tap on the brakes here. 13, 12, 11, 10. 10 knots is what I like to be going at for a 90-degree turn in a passenger jet. That just seems to be the magic number. Any more than that, and you kind of, and I'm sure that there's a first-class passenger back there, with an expensive beverage that would be upset to have it spilled. And we've made it to the runway, so we can do the before takeoff checklist. Now, my Airbus checklist is a little bit old. The current Airbus does not have the thing that's called to the line. And there's some lines on a few of the checklists here. So mine are old. So parking brakes on. And you can see, it's kind of hard to see here, but there's a little bit of a line right there for takeoff. So let's do the top part. Flight controls are checked and set. Instruments are set. Briefing is done. Flaps are confirmed. Flaps 2. V1, VR, Flex, and V2 are set. ATC is on. The ECAM memo is clean and green. So now that is to the line. That's old Airbus. New Airbus, it continues. So takeoff runway has been confirmed. You can do that as easily as looking at the paint outside the window. Cabin crew being informed. Yep, cabin crew is informed. TCAS is at TARA. Engine mode is going to be normal, and packs are going to be on. We are ready for takeoff. So if we were on VATSIM, we would probably do strobes, and I will do one click on my landing lights. Remember I was showing you how the landing lights go down? Right now the landing lights are going down. They're not going on, they're just going down. You don't want to turn them on. If there was an airplane over on the other side, you'd blind them. You don't want to do that. And let's add a little bit of power. And if we were going to be talking on VATSIM. Okay, important safety tip. After you're ready to go and start taxiing, guess what you have to do? You have to turn off your parking brake. Terribly embarrassing. Let's try this again. There's a little bit of power. So if we were on VATSIM, our intention announcement here on 122.8 would be Detroit traffic, and Airbus United A320 is taxiing onto runway 22 right and taking off Detroit. You might have noticed that I don't do a flight number. I say that I'm a United A320. It's a little easier to figure out which airplane is talking by saying it's a United A320 as opposed to just United 441. So if there's a 737, a 747, and an Airbus, and somebody gets on the radio and starts saying ying, 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 if it says what kind of airplane as opposed to their number, I think that kind of helps other people on the ground figure out what's going on. Okay, now that we're lined up, one more click of the landing lights, and landing lights are now on. So I usually slowly advance my throttles up to just underneath the little 5 there. The little halfway mark there, and then I'll look down at the engine instruments and look, is it stable? And then I'll push it up to manual flex. SRS is set. Runway did not pop on, but auto thrust is blue. And steering now with rudder pedals. And not nose wheel. 100 knots, checked. The one wish list that I wish we had on this, V1 and rotate, is airspeed callouts on takeoff for this airplane. This was a nice takeoff because we had the no wind, but you need to look down the runway. Just look down the runway, and as opposed to looking at my airspeed indicator, I'd love to have the co-pilot doing those callouts. So that's one of the things that I kind of regularly say, hey, Fenix, that would be kind of cool. I don't know how hard that is, though. It could be that's a really hard thing to do. Okay, we're coming up on the intercept point. Let's do a gentle turn to the right, follow our flight directors. Lever climb, thrust climb. And follow the flight directors. There's our flight director. Lower the nose a bit. I'm trying to get a lot better about that. Speed's coming up. In fact, we could go to flaps 1 now. Always fun to watch the flaps go up. Of course, when I go back into the cabin to look at the flaps and stuff, I miss my turns. And coming up on the little S. So let's go ahead and do AP. Come on back here. There's the S. Up goes the flaps. Generally, if I book flight reservations on a flight, I usually go for this seat here. This is 10A. So I get to see the wing. I get to see the engine. I get a nice view outside. So if you're ever on a plane, keep an eye out for 10A. Don't worry, I'm not a troublemaker. I'm a good person. I behave. Passing 4,000 feet. And a nice little takeoff. ATC is going to probably call and say, United 441, climb and maintain flight level 240. And from here, we can kind of come out of here. And we can go to the route map, which is kind of nice. The route map on this is pretty good. You can also switch between this map and high and low airways. I generally like this map because I really like doing touristy stuff. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to put on constraints. And look at that, we have a constraint. Below 7,000 feet at Sam's here. So that's why we're slowing down. And if I'd studied my SID just a little bit more, I would have known that there would have been a constraint. It's just, oh, why are we slowing down? Okay. See, we don't need ground spoilers anymore. Speed's 250, good airplane here. So we have altitude constraint indicated up there on the primary flight display. So it knows that we're going to do a constraint, but we're still going to climb. And a nice turn over here. And I got to tell you, you know, you take a look outside the wing view like this and you look down and you see, and you know, if we were on this departure right now, I'll bet this is what it would look like outside the window. And that's part of the attraction of this flight simulator thing. And there we go, back to climb. It's going to be below 9,000 feet though at baseline. Beautiful day to fly for pizza in Chicago. And looks like we're going to probably slow down there. So we got this going on here. We can come over to Mr. Flight Plan. And this is how I'm going to remind myself. We're going to flight level 340. So flight level 340. There we go. My guess is that, you know, all the electronics that we have, the pilots are still going to print out the flight plan. They're still going to print stuff out. If you look at this Lido style of flight plan here, one of the things that you'll see is on page 3, you see actual times for in, out, out, off, on, in times. You know, your actual passengers. So I'm going to guess that they're really, that even though we've got all these electronic tools, they're still going to print out a real world flight plan. Because, you know, what happens if the iPad stops working? So I think that having a printed backup is a good thing to do. They probably have a backup iPad for their flight charts. Let's go over here and go there. Do we have any more constraints? M-tracked, it looks like it says we just have to be above 4,000 feet there. I think we're going to be able to meet that constraint too. So in 1.3 miles, we should be able to continue the climb. I'll bet that's what it looks like out of seat 10A on this flight right now. Just amazing scenery. Oh, did you hear the engine spool up a bit as we continue the climb? That's not bad. That's pretty awesome. Coming up on 10,000 feet. It's almost time for us to push a button here. 7, 8, 9, and 10,000 feet. Landing lights. Turn off the nose light, which automatically turned itself off when the gear went up. And then cabin call. That lets the cabin crew know several things. First of all, 10,000 feet lets them know that, okay, sterile cockpit is done. So if the cabin crew needs to talk to the flight tech, they can call. Otherwise, the cockpit's on do not disturb for that point. For passengers, this is when the flight attendants are saying, hey, we still haven't turned off the seatbelt signs, stay in your chair. And while you're there, look in the seat pocket in front of you because there's a really cool credit card offer. Was Captain sarcastic back in the cockpit? I think so. I think we're going to be able to meet this altitude constraint. So I'm going to go over here and switch to airports. Now, one of the things is terrain radar is supposed to be on 1, and the other pilot is supposed to have weather radar on. Right now, we're still waiting for Sim Update 10 to come out, and that's when we're supposed to get weather radar. And at that point in time, I'll start turning these things on and being a good pilot there. I usually leave my map on the Airbus on 80 miles. I can see where there is airports. So I'm able to tell if I lose an engine and you got to find an airport. Oh, there's an airport right there. And we're very easy to check that out. It's very easy to check that out. We can come on in here, and this is something I haven't done an awful lot of. We go into the Fenix app and go to My Flight. Okay, so we are airborne, but let's go over here and click this one. So here's weather, and we can go to the arrival weather. Now, one of the absolutely awesome things about this is if we were on VATSIM and there was ATC, you could click this and get the VATSIM digital ATIS. Wow, this is so cool to be able to have this kind of information in here for a flight like this. It's all within here. Now, we're not going on VATSIM right now, but so what we can do is we can go to the FAA's digital ATIS and look for Chicago O'Hare, KORD, and Chicago O'Hare. So weather is 070 at 9, 10 miles visibility, few clouds, 1,500. It's overcast at 25,000, it's 24 degrees. Dew point's kind of close, but I don't think it's foggy. And altimeter's 2999. Arrivals, expect vectors to the ILS 9 left and 10 center. Okay, so now we have the latest information there. And the other thing that I've gone and done is I did find a United flight that goes from Detroit to Chicago. This is for later in the day. That's how I knew about D2 for our departure gate. And C27 is the arrival gate. So now we know where it is that we're supposed to park. And that's a good way to do that. And that will work with a bunch of other airports too, not just domestic, US domestic flights. Let's go to Navigraph now. Over here, we're going to go to Detroit. We're out of the star. I don't think we're going back to Detroit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear these out of here, because I've had a hard time loading ground charts for 2 different airports at the same time. So we clear those out, and then we can go and do our ground charts. So here's O'Hare, and here's parking gates. Okay, so we can come on in here, and we know we're going to gate Charlie 27. Where is Charlie 27? It's out here in the, I think they call it the banana sometimes. So it's over here on the inside, north side of the airport. Okay, easy enough. Let's go and check our starred charts here. Windy arrival. This is a quick flight, so, it's never too early to brief this one. Fact is, we're coming up on it fast. So coming on in here, we're going to, I think we're going direct to Victory, I believe, is our first spot. And I don't see a bunch of altitudes here. I have a couple suggested, but nothing much there. Oh no, we're going direct to Smooth. So we're direct to Smooth. 6,000 feet. Possibly. And then, let's see, we're going to probably be doing Vulcan, Kirk, and Bambi for the ILS of 10 Center. It's on the north side, so I think those should be in the FMS, in the McDo. Yeah, no, we're on the south side. Yeah, we're on the south side, so we should be seeing Monks, Giorgio, and Possum. Let's see if we're in the right transition. Now, the real pilots, of course, they're not doing this in flight. They're checking all this before they even push back from the gate. So, Smooth, Windy, Fryer, Ernie, Pappy, Tubes, Monks, Giorgio, and Possum. We're good to go. At Possum, let's see, we got 250 knots here. Do we have any altitudes here? There's 6,000 at Possum. Nothing hard and fast here. Let's go ahead and make our initial descent 6,000 feet. Let's go ahead and that'll be that. Oh, I forgot to do my altimeters at 18,000 feet. Boy, so much to remember. This is the hard part about these airplanes. They're getting so much more complex. And remember, these airplanes are for 2 people. You're doing the workload of 2 people in this. And if we were on VATSIM, holy cats would we be busy. Coming up on 25,000 feet. Morning flight. If it's smooth, I'm going to go ahead and get seatbelts off. You know there's somebody back there in the cabin that really had too much coffee. By the way, that's a traveler's lesson that you only need to learn once. And yes, I did it, and I will never do it again. You never do too much coffee before being a passenger. So there. Okay, everything's looking good here. I think we're out on time, so that's good to go too. All of this is looking good. You could also start briefing yourself just a little bit on the arrival. So we're going to come in here on good old 10 Center. My guess is 10 Center. We're going to probably get the Fox 6. After Fox 6, it's back on Papa. Look for Papa 4, November 1. Or maybe Papa 6 to Echo Echo, November. Maybe Lima Lima in here to get us over here. The other runway that they had us, that Chicago is using for landing on the north side, was 9 left. And I guess we could have gone to 9 left, and maybe this taxi down on Mike wouldn't have been as bad, but I just thought it looked like it was shorter to do 10 Center. Plus, we're kind of coming from the south. You know, maybe they're going to bring the north airplane, the airplanes coming in from the north on this side, and the south airplanes. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking these things. Been known to happen. So here's our latest METAR. That looks good. So all that information's great. How we doing here? 28,000 going to flight level 340. Top of descent hockey stick has already shown up here. It's about 80 miles out. In fact, if we go to the performance tab, 30. Oh no, we're still climbing. Oh, we got a top of climb hockey stick first. I didn't see that. Okay. Again, so much stuff to keep track of on these airplanes. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is these regular, you know, not every morning, but since the spy flight starts at about 3 o'clock Eastern time every day, if I can get up in the morning and, you know, instead of looking at Twitter and the news and everything else, I can go and spend some time doing this. I have a little more peace of mind, and I'm learning a little bit more about these extremely complex airplanes. And by the way, this is also going to kick into gear even more in November when we get the Unibuild's A310 comes out. So those will be 3 airplanes. And, you know, in our case, as flight simulators, simulator pilots, you know, we're flying the Airbus, we're flying the Boeing, we're flying the old Airbus, we're flying the CRJ, we're flying the DC-6. Okay. Now, most real-world pilots, they're flying the Airbus, or they're flying the Boeing, or the CRJ, but they're not mixing it up as much as we are mixing it up. So because they've gotten so much more complex, and because the skies in VATSIM are getting more crowded, I'm kind of starting to do a little bit more of this practice makes perfect kind of a thing. Now, while I never expect to achieve perfect level, maybe it'll get just a little bit better, and perhaps it'll end up being, instead of perfect, just less humiliating. Okay, looking good here. We are 21 miles to top climb. See, we can come over here to the do menu, and we can go to the FMGC over here. I don't know if this is going to operate independently. And we can do the progress over here. So we could look at the progress page. We could also do fuel predictions and see we're expected to have 4.0 kgs of fuel. Let's go over here and look at what our remaining fuel is supposed to be. Remaining fuel. So final reserve plus alternate is going to be 3.0. So the airplane says 4.0. We are not going to run out of gas. That's kind of a nice little thing to be able to check and see. So I'm going to go back over here to Navigraph. Let's get the windy arrival up here, because that's the next thing to do. We've already decided we're going to descend to 6,000 feet. And so now that we're hitting top of climb, we'll go ahead and start thinking about 6,000 feet. It's a comparatively small distance between Detroit and Chicago. I really feel like with the complexity of these airplanes and stuff like that, a flight from Detroit to Chicago is a really great training flight. Look at this. We're going to have 5 minutes of cruise before it's time to start getting ready to descend. Okay, so maybe that gives you a time for a sip of coffee or a sip of tea or what other beverage you have in the cockpit. It gives you time to maybe make a trip to the bathroom, maybe, if you need to do that. But really, this is going to keep you busy. And, you know, flight simming does take time and effort, so especially time. So Detroit, Chicago, a flight, you know, of this distance is actually really a pretty good flight. So if we looked at the flight data here, this one was supposed to be an hour and 55 minutes gate to gate, 296 miles. Perfect. I think a really perfect amount of time for you know, polishing up the old stills on this, or as they say in other games, leveling up. All right, so let's go ahead, and we'll probably get a descend and maintain at pilot's discretion 6,000 on this one. So we're good to go there. Other preparations, nothing else. We could do our destination data. So over here, there's several ways to go about getting this. We could go to the do menu, and we could go to ATSU. We could go to Air Operations. We could do Weather Request, and do KORD. And we could put it in here and do a send, and do 2 returns, and received messages, and there is the same METAR. Now this is the same thing that's over in the electronic flight bag. The difference is I don't have to look back and forth. That's the only reason I did it this way. So QNH Chicago is 2999, 2999. And I'm trying to punch my buttons a little bit slower because apparently the real world McDo, you know, it's not instant button punching. There's a delay. The temperature in Chicago is 24 degrees, 24. The winds in Chicago are 070 at 9, 070 at 09. There we go. Barrow, we can come over here to charts, and we can get minimums for 10 center. and minimums are 869 feet. So 869. Hey, that's set too. And now we can go back to performance, and we are 34 miles to top of descent. I can just leave that there. I don't think that we're going to have any other company messages. So we are 30 miles from top of descent. If we go to flight plan, it says that we are 138 miles to the east of Chicago. So now's about the time that the real world pilots are going to get on the PA and say, good morning again from the flight deck. This is Captain Sarcastic talking today. We are currently 136 miles away from Chicago O'Hare. O'Hare weather is pretty good. There's a little bit of a breeze out of the east at 9 knots. It is overcast in Chicago right now, but it looks like it's going to be fairly nice for our landing. We'll be starting our descent into Chicago in the next 5-10 minutes. So anybody that needs to make a last-minute trip to the bathroom, all we ask is that not all of you try and go at the same time, as there's not an awful lot of room in the bathroom, and if you all get up at the same time and walk around, it makes the airplane tip over uncomfortably, and the company would like us to avoid that. So, thanks for flying. This is Captain Sarcastic. Okay. Clearly, I don't have a future as an airline pilot. I don't think that they like that. They probably don't like that much personality on the PA system. Okay, we are 20 miles out, and this is looking good. Lights are off. Seat belts are going to go on in a few minutes. There's probably all sorts of flushing going on back there as the last little bits of coffee are being recycled. It's summertime here at Spy HQ, so it's already iced tea here. Already iced tea here at Spy HQ. Let's see, do I don't have the weather cam set up on this one. Oh well. It's already blazing sun and getting warm out there. Another safety tip that I do for flight sim, it's great doing flights in the morning. Generally, you don't have thunderstorms, and I generally try not to be flying around with thunderstorms and stuff. Almost time for our descent. So, performance, 10 miles. I'm trying to hit the descend button. This airplane does not automatically descend. The Boeing will. Older Airbuses will. This Airbus wants a human to say, yes, you can descend. So what I'm trying to do is keep a close eye on the descent here. And when I get between 0 and 3 miles out, that's usually when I will hit the button. Usually when I will press the button. Nice descent on in there. You can see the other airports. This descent is remarkably free of constraints. That's probably just because the controllers, there's so much traffic in here. Probably every day is different. And so they're going to need different altitudes and different airspeeds. So it's just best to do, each day is different. We're going to determine speeds and altitudes that we need you to be at. Okay, there's 3. So let's go. There's 2. I'm going to hit the button when it says 1. And 1. And there is the button press. And we have started our descent. Down we go. And here is the donut. So as opposed to what is called green dot is over here for flap speed. There's the donut. This lets us know this is vertical deviation from our optimum path of descent. And so I think that that's set up so as you see over here it says thrust idle. This is a nice thrust idle descent. to get us down to the runway. So right now we are barely sipping gas for jet engines, but that's kind of one of the cool things that Airbus has done here. And everything else is good, passing 32,000 feet. We've got approach checklist and landing checklist. So over on the Boeing 737, my checklist, there's a descent checklist. And all this is looking good. Nothing really to worry about over here. One of the things is we're going to ISXH and 108.95. We could go to the radio nav page. ISXH 108.95 with an inbound course of 094, 094, 093, 094. That's good enough. The airplane is already looking for our for the ILS. So this kind of confirms that in terms of the ILS, the airplane is on the ball and moving faster than the pilot certainly is. At least this one. Coming up on windy. Everything's kind of nicely tucked away here. Nothing really to worry about. Not much to see as we go over Lake Michigan here. The few times that I remember a flight over Lake Michigan like this, it's never been kind of a calm day. It's always I was always able to see whitecaps on Lake Michigan, whenever, and not that I've gotten to do that many flights, but you know, whenever it was one of these approaches, it was always whitecaps on the water here. Hence the windy city and all of that, so I get that. On the other hand, they got really good pizza there. One of the things that I've done is over on my Thrustmaster Airbus side stick and throttle is there's just one view switch. So there's one hat switch like this. So I've got turn left and turn right still as a hat switch, but up and down, that has become my trim switch. And although I don't need that kind of a trim switch that much in this airplane, I really, on other airplanes, it really is a nice thing to have. So I've gone and set that up kind of a permanent thing. So if I want to look up and down, I have to use the mouse like this. But I can go over and I can look like this. I can look right and left. Another thing that I've done is on the Airbus side stick. So there's the little trigger, and the trigger there in Airbus is talk on the radio. There is on the Thrustmaster, there is a small button on the top of it. When I press that, it always returns me to a tight view there, and a second view is my captain's view. And so having that button set, so if I want to look around over here, but oh my gosh, we've got to land, I just have to do that little button, and it's a very convenient way to return me to the main, you know, fly the airplane view. And so that's a view that I've set up, and I've tried to have my views the same on all of my airplanes. So it started in X-Plane using the number pad for quick views. So this is my number pad 0. This is number pad number 1, which is the autopilot view. Number 2 is the McDo view. Number 3 is what I call big instruments, and that way I can see pretty much all the main instruments that I need to see. 4 is always the tight view on the navigation display and the primary flight display. Number 5 is always an upper panel. 6 is the pedestal view. 7 and 9 are cabin views, and 8 is electronic flight bag. And so those are the views that I try to set up on all of my airplanes. And that way I know whether I'm in a Boeing or an Airbus, number 5 always gets me the upper panel. And that is one of the little secrets that I've got for being able to fly an Airbus and a Boeing and an MD-11 and a CRJ is have my views set up so I don't have to go stumbling through to find out what view I need to be at. So I can go and easily see big instruments. The main view here, you get a nice overview, but from where I'm sitting, I can't read. I can barely read the airspeeds, but now just one touch of the number 4 button, and I can clearly see what my airspeed is. We're at 22,000 feet, so seatbelts. As we start a nice little turn over here. One of my favorite things to do, and it's been this way for most of my life, is walk down a jetway. It's the beginning of a new adventure. And so with COVID and everything else, this is obviously something I don't get to do anymore. But getting a Microsoft Flight Simulator and the community over on Twitch, and growing over here on YouTube, but mostly on Twitch, has absolutely been a lifesaver for me, with having to isolate, being laid off and not having the resources to go out and do things. This has just been a window on the world, and while some might regard that as a little sad, it's sort of like, well, that's the way reality is, and it's not just for me, it's for a lot of people. And so Microsoft Flight Simulator coming back out with great scenery, and now with Fenix and PMDG putting out these great airplanes, the world has kind of reopened up a little bit, and so that's why it's been such a good thing for me, and I hope it's been a really good thing for you too. Let's go over here real fast. We can come on over here, and I'm going to do the Fenix button, and let's do a refresh just to see. 070 at 9, 10 miles visibility. Numbers have not changed. So the numbers haven't changed. We're coming up on 18,000 feet. So 1999 for Chicago. We could do the backup right now. So 1999. 2999. Excuse me. I can read. I can read. I do tend to, when I'm live streaming or recording a video like this, I really do tend to mess up some of the numbers like that. Okay, 18,000 feet, so 2999. Turn it off standard. So there's 2999. Have a look down here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 8. Up. See, you got about 20 seconds to go and change this, the co-pilots. Otherwise, the airplane's going to whine at you and say, hey. So you got about 20 seconds to do that. 16, so this is looking good. Another reason that I really like Detroit to Chicago as a practice flight, it's short, but the two really excellent quality airports. So the Detroit Metro Airport that's free, the payware that you can get for Chicago, you get two really great quality airports like this and a great quality airplane. You're in Flight Simulator geek heaven at that point in time. Again, the next best thing to actually getting to go and do this sort of thing, although I didn't have to go through security, and what's left of my credit card is remarkably intact. So that's kind of one of the other advantages. And I'm getting to learn stuff about airplanes, which has always been a favorite thing for me to learn about. And I'm going to go ahead and bring the map into 20 miles now. We'll be doing, after 18,000 feet, at this point, we could do the approach checklist. So the briefing has been, I guess, sort of done. The ECAM status is clean. Nothing popping up in there yelling at me. Seatbelts are on. The barrel reference has been set. The MDA was set too. Engine mode is going to be normal. And so our approach checklist is done. I really have found that I forget less critical things. I'm using the checklist in a simulator setting like this really does help. Even though, I could probably, recite half of it from memory, going over the checklist, which is why, in all of the real world cockpit videos that we watch on YouTube, You watch the pilots, they use the printed checklist. And I gotta tell you, it works for us flight simulator pilots too. If we were on VATSIM right now, we would probably announce an intention here. So we could say something like Chicago O'Hare traffic, a United A320 is turning base for runway 10 center, Chicago. You could not turning base, turning downwind. I'm thinking about too many things. But you could start thinking in your mind, okay, these are some of the things that we would have to say. Yes, we are turning downwind. I know the difference between base and downwind. Coming up on 10,000 feet here. And let's go over here. We are coming up on Ruta. Ruta is 4,000 feet. I'm going to continue my descent down to 4,000 feet. By now, very probably, ATC has got us doing, instead of 268, they probably got us going to 210. So let's go ahead and reduce our speed to 210. We're going to need a little help from the speed brakes. So speed brakes, and it's always kind of cool to look outside the airplane, see your speed brakes pop up. Real world pilots will talk about when you're doing an approach and using speed brakes on an approach like this. If you've got a handle for your speed brakes, leave your hand on the handle. Otherwise, you're going to forget sometimes that you've got your speed brakes out. And that's a problem. So I've gone and I've got the Airbus handle here, the Airbus controller, and so I'll keep my hand on the speed brake handle unless I need to go get the mouse as we approach 10,000 feet and do landing lights and pre-arm the nose light and do the 10,000 foot cabin call. And then I'm going to put my hand right back on speed brakes here until we get to where we want to be. That looks good. And speed brakes back down. When you do use your speed brakes on your descent like this, be sure that you remember to go out and arm them for landing. We can also do a notch of flaps. How about flaps 1? And this is all looking pretty good here. Let's also do auto brakes medium. So our items are good there. We're passing 9,000 feet. This is 4,000 feet out here. So we already know that Ruta's at 4,000 feet. So we're doing a fairly decent descent, I think. We know that we're going to be overcast for most of this. There's our airplane. Usually as we start to get close here, since I know where we are and I can use the map on the navigation display, this is about the time that I'm going to go and make sure that my airport chart is ready to go, that I'm zoomed in so I can see where I'm going to be operating from. And we're going to be coming in here on 10 center and getting off here, 10 center, echo, echo, and going like that. So I'm going to kind of make sure that all of that's set up there. Looks like it's raining a little bit here outside the airplane. As we come up on Possum, I'm also going to go ahead and start thinking about taking control of my heading. So there's my heading, because we're probably at, pretty close to getting vectors there. We're passing 8,000 feet. We're going to 4, so a little bit beyond Possum. And then we can start our turn back in to the runway. Other things to look at up here, not much. Lights are set, passenger signs are set, all the lights are out. That's good news. Everything looks good here. I think this is a phase of flight that's hurry up and wait. So 4,000 feet here, a little bit beyond Possum. Will be 6, and then we can start our turn in. Now's a good time to also hit the LS button, and we do have glide slope and localizer. Even on a beautiful day in the neighborhood with no clouds, sunshine, and little birdies out there singing, I will, if I have time, make sure that I could set up an ILS or an RNAV. even if I know it's going to be a visual approach. And the reason that I do that is this gives me another visual reference in my simulated world here of whether or not we're on the glide slope. Mostly it's the glide slope for me here, but also localizer. And the reason being is I'm not sitting in a real Airbus cockpit. I'm looking at a computer screen. Depth perception on the computer screen ain't great. And so by doing it this way, one of the things is I'm able to use these as an additional visual aid, and that helps out. Okay, let's go and do 180. So we're going to reduce our speed here just a bit. And I'm kind of going slow because we're loading in a bunch of Chicago scenery. And let's go ahead and turn on into the runway. And our speed should slowly start coming down just a little bit too. And we're starting to actually see the ground again. Remember, when the overcast was only down to what? Oh, I forgot. And it's, overcast at 25,000. All right, so here we are coming up on Ruta. Give it a round number as we kind of come up over here to intercept localizer. Passing 4,000 feet, so we're definitely below the glide slope. That helps, perhaps a little bit too low. And our speed's starting to slow down a bit, so we're going to be able to toss out another notch of flaps soon. Let's go to 060. A little bit better angle on our intercept of the localizer. And it gets us a little bit closer to the runway. Actually, I'm going to go to 070. ATC would be giving us much better vectors than I'm able to do myself, but this is working out pretty good. I'm keeping a close eye on my little diamond down here. It's a half diamond. We're 16 miles out. Speed. Flaps 2. "4,000 feet. We have glide slope and localizer being picked up by the airplane. They're both half diamonds right now. There's a diamond there. Let's go ahead and get a little help from the autopilot. Approach mode. This is going to turn us on final. At this point, if we were on VATSIM, we could say Chicago O'Hare traffic, a United A320 is turning final for runway 10 center. 14-mile final, Chicago. And there is our turn. Usually, ATC is going to say 180 knots to Ray. So we're going to hold 180 knots, and then we'll do our final approach speed. Come down here, make sure it's in approach mode. Sometimes you have to set it, switch it over. And that's just confirm approach mode down here. VAP is 134. This is looking good. Here comes glide slope. I usually do my final, between Ray and Ruta. So the last two checkpoints, this is landing gear. Ray is final approach speed and flaps. And we should intercept the glide slope right at Ruta because that was 4,000 feet. So we're good to go there. You could also look up here and verify in the primary flight display under altitude that GS is in blue. That means it's been armed. And so the airplane says, yes, my next job is to capture the glide slope. And then when it goes out and there's a white box, it says, oh, I am carrying out your instructions, human. I am being a good airplane. wheels is a good thing to have. And at this point in time, we could start thinking about doing a landing checklist. I'm going to go ahead and now bring my map in one last click. So 10 miles. We are, what, 4 miles from Ray, 7 miles from the runway.
2,500.
Looking over there, it is left turn off the runway. We're shooting for Papa 6. Then we'll continue on up for Echo Echo, and that's going to get us into November. We'll do a jump to the left and a step to the right, and that should get us into United Land. Almost to Ray. If you're a little nervous because it's kind of a tight, it's about 5 miles from the runway for our speed. Another thing to do is maybe just look here. There's the edge of the runway. So when that touches the 5 mile range contour, that's another great way to say, up, final approach speed. That's close enough. Managed. Look down here. We can do flaps 3. Flaps 4 or full, I guess. I guess it's flaps full in the Airbus. There is a new flight recorder that I've been playing with here to go and look at landings. So replay, there's a replay app that you can get. It's free at flightsim.to. Just look for flight recorder. And I see the runway. Generally, though, at this point in time, when I wait until I can really see it before I do autopilot. Landing checklist, cabin crews advised, auto throttle's going to be on speed. Auto brakes are not needed at the moment. They are armed. ECAM memo is green. Landing checklist is good. Throttles are where they're supposed to be. Feet are on the rudder pedals. Looking outside. Can I see the runway? I sure can. Last thing I'll do is note what my wind indicator is showing me. So we're going to get the wind, and it's going to try and blow us from the left to the right. It's a little bit bouncy right now. Two clicks.
500.
Captain's got the airplane. First officer starts praying. Cabin crew starts delivering free beverages to adults that are nervous. Looks a little bit on the damp side here. I think Chicago's gotten a little bit of rain today.
100 above. Minimum.
Continue.
$100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 5. Retard.
I think I bounced a little bit on this landing. How embarrassing. And auto brakes off. What don't you like? What did I do wrong? Well, it didn't like something I did. Speed brakes down. We'll tuck up the flaps. And I think we're getting off right where we thought we were. Papa 5. Landing lights once we get done over here. Strobes. Got a bit of a taxi here, so we're not going to do the APU quite yet. One of the things that I'm going to start learning is there's a special procedure for doing a there's a procedure for doing a one-engine taxi, and I think at this point in time we would be doing that. Okay, so this is a closed taxiway that's coming up here. That's a closed taxiway according to my map. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to stop here. Stop recording. Replay. So here's our replay, final approach. I think I bounced bad. See, the landing rate officially from Sim Toolkit Pro, 471. That's not good. That wasn't pretty. Now, this doesn't show your correct flap position, so it doesn't show that. I also don't know if it's going to show speed brakes and reversers. Definitely seeing a couple of scenery hits here. I think it's probably because A, it's Chicago, and B, it's weather. I don't know that you can actually speed this up. I'm just learning about the replay, but it's so cool to actually have a decent replay now. Okay. I guess it wasn't really it wasn't a bounce, it was a hop. It wasn't a bounce, it was a hop. Okay, so there's a big difference there. Okay, so if we go to pause and then move this thing forward and then stop replay, that should pick us up for our taxi without too much problem here. Okay, I think I had a caution here. We got hot brakes. Auto flight, auto throttle is off. I guess was that it? Not sure. I've got something indicating there. Maybe that's something I have to clear down here. Okay, this should be Echo Echo. No, that's Foxtrot. So we don't want Foxtrot, we want the next one. Echo Echo. Anyhow, we made it. And so I'm gonna taxi to parking, and how about instead of you having to watch me do the whole thing, we'll do a little dissolve right here. And through the magic of editing, we are even closer to the gate now. So followed the taxi plan, and it worked out pretty good. There's 17. We are looking for, I think it was 27. So there's 19. I think it's one of these at the end here. There is 21. 23, 25. That's got to be 27 right over there. So we'll get back in the cockpit. And there's 25. So 27's right on in here. Oh wow, it's even marked correctly. So slow it down even more. Generally, gate guidance doesn't show up. There's a couple of airports that do have it, but hardly any. So you kind of have to do your own gate guidance going in. But after a little bit of practice, you can do that sort of thing. So a nice gentle turn like this. See, Happy Pappy, who does actual ground crew work, says, boy, be nice. Maybe consider turning off that light so you don't blind the person once you're clearly established on the you know, on your taxi in. And then outside you can kind of go here and set yourself up. And I think, well, I think we could go a little more. Let's see. What do we have? Oh, it's marked here. Let's see. 320, 321. So there's the A320. So we can move it forward and use that actual marking there. Add a little bit more. And there we go. A320 parking. Perfect. Parking brake is on. I did turn on the APU. So engine number 1, engine number 2. We should stop squawking here. And we've stopped squawking. Come on up here, passengers. After the engines, they want to see that seatbelt sign go off. Turn off the emergency exits. The beacon can go off too. And I'm going to be a good pilot and do my engines. My fuel pumps, I mean. So all of that's good. And look at that. They've already got ground power available. Let's punch in some ground power. That's a good thing to do. We can come down here and it says arrived. Deboard? Yes, deboard the airplane. And so usually what this will do is go and grab us a jetway. And let's see if we're going to get a jetway. Hello, jetway. Are you going to come for us? I did say deboard. Let's go over here and we can go to ground services. Let's see if toggle the jetway works for us. Well, they're opening up the cargo bays, but I don't think we're going to get a jetway today. So this jetway is not quite coming over here. So our passengers are going to have to jump. But I think if we go over here to mass, doors are open. So this is all going to be good. So we have a jetway. Yep, passengers are getting off. Successful flight. Only one more thing to check. Our fuel on board is 3.6. If we come over here, let's take a final look at our flight plan. And we were supposed to have with, let's see, final reserve and alternate 3.0. So we won the fuel game, and that one seems to have worked for us. So thank you for flying. I hope that you found this just a little bit helpful and maybe even fun. As I always like to say with the YouTube videos, it's not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is just simply something that works for me. And so hopefully it's something that works for you too. I'm still really new here on YouTube, so quite frankly, I read all the comments and questions. In fact, if somebody had a comment, and that's going to be a YouTube video for next week, thank you. We're going to do the DC-6. So comments and questions, I'm still reading them all and appreciate them all. I'm still new on YouTube. I'm not monetized, but there's Ko-fi if you liked what you saw and want to encourage me to continue to do this. I really like producing content on YouTube and Twitch. Or you can come on over and fly with us on Twitch TV. 757 Spy is the channel. There's a group of really good, knowledgeable people, including real-world pilots that fly with us every day, Tuesday through Sunday. And if you like this, you could also drop a sub or something like that too, and that would be appreciated too. I'm Dave. Thank you for flying with me. I hope you are having a really good week so far and having all sorts of fun with your flight simulator, because I got to tell you, this is almost as much fun as really getting to go out to the airport and go flying. Thanks for flying along. Have a great day.